Ana iwi, ana mana, ana reo, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. From Aotearoa, New Zealand, welcome you all for joining us today. We also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands in which you're joining us today, and we acknowledge that for many Indigenous people across the world, sovereignty was never ceded. I'm Chantal McNaught, Legal Practice Advisor here at LEAP New Zealand. And on behalf of LEAP, we're incredibly excited to present to you this 30-minute burst of all things legal AI and tech with Hills here, all to help you, the lawyers who help the people, keep up in this era of AI. Together, we're going to learn how technology is transforming the profession, including the benefits and challenges of AI and remote work, and we'll also gain a deeper understanding of this era of AI and its impacts. For some housekeeping, we want to make sure that all of our tech is working how it's meant to. And this is going to be an interactive webinar for you. So I want you to find your raise hand button and just raise your hand so we can see that you can hear us. Oh, look at those numbers go up. How exciting. Great. We know the tech is working. And you'll also see in your buttons in Zoom, there is a Q&A option. We highly encourage you, strongly encourage you to use the Q&A function and ask your burning AI and legal tech questions, because that's why we're presenting this for you. And we have some question time at the end for the answers. So that would be really wonderful. Just ask them as you think of them. All right. So now to introduce you to our honored guest and speaker today, Hilary Walton, or Hills as she's called, is well known within the tech industry and with a diverse background in psychology, information communication technology, risk management, and cybersecurity. Really broad stuff. And she's also worked with some of the biggest names in business, not just Microsoft. This includes the MI5 and the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. But that's not all. Hills is also an author, having penned a book on security culture, and it's a must read for anyone interested in this field. And when she isn't busy being a tech guru and amazing mother of three, Hills is a digital influencer who loves nothing more than sharing her digital culture ideas with the world. And you can catch her on her YouTube show and podcast, both called Digital Culture Ideas. And if that isn't enough, she's also active on various social media platforms, including my personal favorite, LinkedIn, but also Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and TikTok, all under the handle @HillsWalton. If you are interested in staying up to date, Hills also has a tech news service that you can join for free on WhatsApp to get tech news articles delivered directly to your phone. Wow. All right, over to you now, Hills.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Thank you for that great introduction. And thank you all so much for being here today. This topic of AI is definitely one that I really love to talk about. And so today what I want to get to is really trying to give you a way to keep up to date with AI. So we're going to have a look at the future of work and how that impacts. I've got some top legal use cases for generative AI in particular I want to talk you through. And I really want to bring it alive for you. So I am going to demo for you Microsoft 365 Copilot as a way to do that. And then we'll also touch on things like AI safety and responsible AI. I know they are hot topics for this particular group, as well as talking about copyright issues. As we finish off, I'm going to leave you, the business owners, with a bit of a framework, if you like, for how you can think about transforming your organization with AI. And then also for the individuals, I'm going to give you some kind of key tips for where to start using generative AI. But as Chantal said, I want this to be interactive. So if there's anything else you want me to touch on that's not part of that, then feel free to pop it in the questions now, and the team can spot it there. Or if there's anything you think about as we go through, just keep those questions coming through and we can get to those as well. I love asking anything. So please make use of that time at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so for me, AI, generative AI in particular, is just a tool. And a tool on the right hand has always sparked a lot of transformation. We can think back to ancient times with, water being transported through ancient aqueducts. And then we can also think of the world's knowledge being at the tip of our fingertips through the smartphone as well. But I guess what's really interesting about this is that this is really one of those most exciting shifts that we've seen in a generation. And so, I really implore you as leaders to participate in terms of, what it really means for you, because it's impacting on three main areas: every individual, every team, and also every industry, including the legal industry. Okay, so let's talk about enriching the employee experience. AI can absolutely unlock the ability to get the best out of your talent. So it allows your people to find information faster and help them generate content, but also suggest creative ideas and solutions. So what's really interesting is, gone are the days when you would actually get someone else to do your first draft or someone else to actually summarize something for you, because that can all be done by generative AI now. But AI can also reinvent the customer engagement as well. So it's really changed the whole circle of life and the lifetime engagement of customers also. So now every connection with the customer can become something that accrues increasing value in that relationship, because you can reason over every single interaction. Like, I don't know if you've been in a meeting and you sort of missed something. Well, now AI can help you go back and find out what that was, and so that you can incorporate that information into your future strategies with customers. But it can also help you reshape your business. So definitely modernizing those internal processes and really unifying, cross-functional support, giving your teams that 360 degree of your entire operation. And lastly, AI empowers every organization to really bend the curve on innovation. So providing the tools for people to really differentiate your business. And if we want to talk about some specific examples of how AI may impact law, then this is what I've come up with. Look, I'm not a lawyer, mind you, but I have spoken to some lawyer friends, and these are the key areas I think it can really impact your business as a starter for 10. So in the customer support space, that might include things like deploying a virtual assistant to answer your clients' queries, for example. So while your clients or your customers, they can search for this information themselves using, tools like ChatGPT, but a customized assistant can help ensure that clients are getting the most up-to-date, relevant advice from reputable sources that you endorse. Another area could also be using this type of yourself. So drafting personalized legal advice based on your client's unique situations. And obviously that helps you save time and can also dramatically extend your reach into new customers, because you can take on more. Looking at the analytics space, you could use this technology to analyze transactions and documents, detect anomalies and potentially fraud, or potentially analyze historical data to get trends and key performance indicators. So I know even in a very different domain, for example, HR, our head of HR for Microsoft, every morning she jumps on to find out what the key HR, global trends are that might be impacting the business or impacting a particular country. And this is something that can be helpful for you as well. It can also help you generate legal reports based on multiple data sources, perhaps more sources you've been able to tap into when it's just like a person doing it. And beyond analysis, it can actually help you generate insights as well. So you can rapidly identify trends in legal transactions and generate recommendations to ensure compliance and perhaps minimize some legal risks. And one of the major strengths of generative AI is the ability to summarize information. It can do it from many sources and create narratives that summarize those key points for you, highlighting trends, and then also perhaps even helping predict the future based on observed trends, because it's actually really good at running scenarios. And finally, you can use that generative AI to generate content as well. So think about that in terms of contracts. It can help individuals and businesses manage their contractual obligations by providing tailored advice, but it can also help you draft, review, but actually also negotiate contracts as well. And then the other area, which is a really cool one, which I quite like, is that it can be used to help educate and train people and maybe even pass those pesky law exams that you have to sit as well. So as I said, this is just a few that came to mind for me. Really keen for anyone in the audience to pop into the questions, any of the use cases that they are noticing as well as they've thought about incorporating generative AI. Okay, and this is all really important actually, because people are really ready for generative AI. So this is some of the research that we've done from our work trend index. And what we're hearing is that 64% of employees are really struggling. They lack time, there's not enough time in meetings. And because of this, they're more likely to struggle with innovation and strategic thinking. And also 70% of people, while some might be scared about it taking over their work, 70% of people are actually really happy to give AI as much, delegate as much work as possible as they can. And 60% of business leaders are looking at this as ways to really kind of, hack that innovation problem, which is a real concern. And so now, to kind of bring that alive, I'm sorry, but I do have to talk about Microsoft Copilot. But of course, there will be other AI coming to other productivity tools out there as well. And you can think of it as, it's a little bit like you're having your own Jarvis. So now kind of everyone can be Tony Stark or Pepper Potts and have their own AI. So it really is a co-pilot though, rather than being in control. So at the end of the day, it's Tony who's telling Jarvis what to do, or Pepper Potts. And look, to take a step back and just compare some of the generative AI options out there, I thought this slide might be particularly useful because there is many AI. It's going to be in lots of different tools and in lots of different clouds as well. In terms of how Microsoft is thinking about this, there's options like Copilot, for example, which used to be called Bing Chat. So this is a bit like a ChatGPT, the publicly available version equivalent. It's powered on GPT-4 though, and also it's completely up to date. So you might remember that ChatGPT was out of date as of September 2021. So that's a really good option for personal use. If you're thinking about using this in your business though, and look, we all were, right? But then we got a little bit scared because it was like, oh my goodness, if you actually copy and paste information into ChatGPT, you could be leaking information to the model. It's going to learn from that information and it may appear in someone else's search. And this is where more commercial or enterprise products play a real part. So Copilot with commercial data protection, or which used to be called until last week, Bing Chat Enterprise, that's actually a work-based AI where you can log in with your work ID. So it's all Active Directory joined, and then your staff can kind of copy paste information and it all stays within your Microsoft tenant. So if you're not already using that in a workplace, that's a great option rather than banning some of the AI websites out there. You can be assured that your information stays in one place. But Microsoft 365 Copilot, that's our AI, which takes it a bit further. And basically, we've infused AI through all our Microsoft productivity apps, be it Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams. And this comes with enterprise security. So all the security policies that you already have in place within your Microsoft tenant, your Office tenant, that applies to Copilot as well. So a lot of people are finding that that's quite reassuring also. So what have we done here? Because we didn't just connect up our apps to ChatGPT. We've actually been working on this for quite a while. And the way we're seeing it at Microsoft is that we're combining a large language model with your Microsoft Graph data. So that really helps provide a really unique context for the prompt to respond to. We're integrating that into our apps, and then we're also enabling that to have fetch information from the internet as well. So as I said, the cool thing about the way we're thinking about this, I think, is that you've got the enterprise grade security. So all your security, compliance, privacy, and responsible AI, it's enterprise ready. But sometimes with AI, you've got to see it in action. So now I just want to bring it alive for you, and I'm just going to play a short demo of Microsoft 365 Copilot in action.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Chat. a powerful new capability in Microsoft 365 to solve your most complex problems at work. Let's say you're a marketer at a national chain of home improvement stores, and you need to get the latest on the store opening. You start your day with Copilot, asking what's hot in your inbox today. It does some thinking and gives you an overview of the most pressing items. Great. Looks like the new store opening plans could use your attention. Let's dive in deeper there. Copilot combs through all your recent emails, chats, documents, and meetings, whether you attended them or not, to get you up to speed in moments. It didn't just summarize a single document. It knew what sources to pull from and what information to extract from each. Next, you need to do some market research. Let's say you want details on square footage and the proximity of competitors to your new location. M365 Chat scours the web, and within seconds, it finds everything you're looking for. And it includes references, so you can easily fact-check the results. You're curious, how does this stack up against the other stores you're opening in the past year? Copilot figures out which stores you mean, crunches the numbers, and gives you the answer. Next on your to-do list, finalize the date and speaker for the opening event. You missed the last meeting, and this might have come up in the conversation. Copilot's got you covered, getting you up to speed in seconds. Looks like it was a dynamic discussion, and it's your responsibility to make a final decision. To do that, you need to understand all the factors at play, including the implications they have on your grand opening timeline. Copilot extracts the relevant details and puts them in an organized table, which helps bring the full picture into view. You're not seeing a clear answer, so you ask it to recommend the best date and speaker based on the constraints discussed. It not only understands the constraints, it thinks through the options to help solve your problem. There you go. Now you have a clear recommendation, so you can make the call and notify the team. Now that you've got the opening date, you've got to get customers excited. Time to write a blog post. You point Copilot to the right files and ask it to tune the message to the audience. Note the amount of detail, such as asking it to pick the top 5 things and make them prominent. Here it goes. Copilot gets to work. Okay, now you've got a blog post. This store will be the first to unveil your new home improvement concierge service, and you need a catchy tagline. Let's generate some options. This is great for when you've got a case of writer's block. Here we go. These look pretty good. Lastly, you want to highlight the impressive retail experience of the new store manager. Best source for that? LinkedIn. Copilot generates an updated blog for you that includes the new additions. Now, the opening is just around the corner, and you've got to send an email to the team so they have everything they need to push this over the finish line. Now, one of the amazing things about Copilot is you don't need to worry about things like punctuation, spelling, or being super structured. You can give it a total brain dump. You could spend the next hour putting together an email that outlines the key details, but with Copilot, you're never more than a few seconds away from a solid first draft. There was a great quote in the store walkthrough video that you want to include, but you don't remember where you last saw it or have time to search for it, let alone re-watch it to find the quote. Based on your quick description, Copilot finds the exact video you're thinking of, extracts the quote you wanted, and plugs both the quote and the video into your email. So, you like the draft, but it doesn't sound like you. Introducing Sound Like Me in Outlook. Now you can personalize any email to match your unique style and voice. And check this out. It even knows your signature. M365 Chat is a whole new way to work.
So I've just been looking at some of the questions while that video is happening. So I'm very happy to share my slides with people. So you can absolutely have those. I see for some people the video wasn't quite clear. I can send you the link to that as well. So I apologize that that hasn't come through correctly. Okay, just gonna jump ahead a couple of slides. So because what you can see there is basically the AI is within all the apps, so be it PowerPoint, Teams, Word. What makes this really powerful though is this thing here called the Microsoft Graph. So what is that, I ask you say? Well, basically the Microsoft Graph is all your chats, your calendar, it's all of that information that's specific to you. So actually, Copilot knows who you are, it knows what your title is, It knows, where you are in the hierarchy of your organization. And all of this means that it can create a really personalized AI experience for you.
Copilot.
And I'm just going to skip through that one in the interest of time. But what that video was going to show you was, because we all have like not enough time, but also with Copilot, and if you're in a meeting, you can actually follow a meeting because if you have a double up. And when you follow a meeting, the person is notified and they'll record the transcript for you. And then you can Copilot afterwards to get a summary of what happened and catch up quickly. This is some of the early research that we're starting to see come through around, how Copilot is really, and AI in the workplace is really transforming work. So some pretty amazing stats here. So 1.2 hours on average saved per week, which is pretty cool. And also we're finding that once people do get AI in the workplace, they don't want to go back to not having it, which just kind of shows the power of this particular tool. One of the questions from the chat was around changing people's mindsets around using AI as a tool. And I think it is a bit of a change. I think for me, it's another tool. So for example, if I talk to my accountant and my accountant produces my tax records for the year, if they said to me, look, hey, Hilary, by the way, I didn't use a calculator for that. I didn't even use Excel. I just used my own brain. I'm actually not sure that's a badge of honor. You would expect the accountant to use the tools of the day. And I think that's something that people are coming to grips with in terms of AI as well. This is just kind of a funny stat that we've seen as well. But when we talked to people around Copilot and we said, would you rather have a free weekly lunch or use Copilot, so some generative AI in the workplace, 77% they'd rather have the AI in the workplace. So this is sort of how fast the change is really happening. And with change, it can seem really scary, particularly as humans. When we think of AI in the movies, we've kind of demonized it. It was always the bright flashing light, the evil, the evil AI. But what I think, one of the myths that we need to debunk is around how AI is developed. And particularly how it's developed safely and responsibly. So if you're setting up using AI in your work, particularly if you're developing AI into some of your applications, then this is a really useful framework to think about AI safety. These are 6 principles of responsible AI that we use at Microsoft. We have these actually operationalized into a Microsoft corporate standard, and that is freely available for people to have a look at. It is literally how our developers and designers and how we operationalize that into our organization. So that's the Microsoft Responsible AI Standard. You also think about how AI is implemented as well. So training is a really key part of it, because actually a lot of the AI use, it's not the technical bit, that's actually fairly easy to implement. And, if it's developed well, get through the security and the privacy issues. The hardest part is often the human part. So getting people to actually adopt and change their behaviors. And obviously with any kind of AI that you are using, you want to have some oversight. And if that's been provided in a platform like Microsoft, then there's a lot of that's happening in behind the scenes. Or if you're developing it yourself, then you'll be responsible for doing some of that. Copyright is another big one. So Microsoft came out with its Copilot copyright commitment, because we know that IP is really important. We don't want Copilot to surface information, from people's books and patents and things like that. And if it does, then Microsoft will, manage the liability of that. And then just last week, we also announced that we're going to be doing that within our Open AI platform as well, Azure Open AI service. So that means if people are developing with AI and if they follow a particular set of safety rules, then Microsoft will manage that liability as well, which is pretty cool. So as we're getting to the end of this, there's just a couple of slides left, but this is my whole how you bring it all together if you're thinking about implementing AI within your workplace. These are sort of the 4 or 5, if you like, pillars or foundations of AI success. So you absolutely have to have a strategy around it. Working out what you're going to do as an organization with this, thinking about your data strategy and governance. You'll need to have some internal artificial intelligence standards that you're operating by as well as some guardrails to keep everyone safe. And then obviously there's a business case that comes with it. And interestingly, some of the research we're seeing with business cases is that for every dollar invested, companies are getting $3 back in terms of ROI. I mean, also they're starting to see those benefits after as little as 14 months, which is quite impressive. We've touched on the change management piece and how important it is to actually implement an organization because we're all humans. And lastly, the compliance is the really important part. So for example, there are some industries who are streaming ahead with AI because they have less regulatory frameworks. There are others which are sort of a bit slower to catch up. Like for example, the financial services industry. Like they have a lot of regulations that they need to make sure they're covering off. So that industry has been slightly slower in adopting AI, but you can bet that they will get there. So lastly, how are you going to seize the transformation of this opportunity if you're a business? These are the 4 areas that you should think about making changes in. And if you're an individual, then this is how you can get started today. So start experimenting, lean into this and start playing. So Bing.com is one way you can do that. So that's our Microsoft Copilot. There are others as well, ChatGPT, for example, Bard, whatever your flavor is. The key is to stay informed of those tech trends as they're happening and really collaborate with the IT staff on this as well. You know, if you're part of the change, then that kind of helps you keep up. Also remember that you're a co-pilot in this. So you're co-piloting with AI, but you're still in charge. So, you know, avoiding things like just making judgments on things before you put them out, making sure that they're a true representation of your opinion or what you want to express. And prompt engineering is the other one for people to really get their heads around. And this is moving from not just commanding an AI, but actually the change we're seeing here is what's your intent? So what's the outcome you're trying to achieve? And then you can actually let the AI help you work out how to get there. So that's a bit of a whirlwind, Chantal, that I just wanted to run people through. But I can see there's lots of questions in the chat as well, which I'm really keen to get to. So let's dive into those.
Yeah, there's we've got one here about how we lawyers and law firms can use generative AI without compromising their client confidentiality, and you have touched on this throughout the presentation, but do you have anything specific to directly address that?
Yeah, I do. So there is the point of like, if you're using Microsoft, because that's where the frame of reference I can talk to, if you're using Microsoft and you have client information within your tenant, then you can use our AI tools and it will keep it in there, and that's okay. However, other things that our customers are kind of wrangling with is they sign people up to use some of these generative AI tools, and our Copilot, for example, then they put them through a pretty reasonable engagement process at the start. So they kind of get them to fill in forms where they're signing off things like, you know, I'll use this responsibly. If government information and where that is stored is an issue, you know, I don't access government information, or even in New Zealand, like Māori information and sovereignty is quite important as well. And there's some sort of issues we're wrangling with over here where it's like, well, what is Māori information? Because there are some really special data and information there that has tonga for people, and you know, maybe you don't want a generative AI reinterpreting that in a way that isn't genuine with actually what the intent was. So this is some of the things that, you know, we're kind of wrangling, but a kind of sign-on or registration process can really help that as you're starting to use this within your organization.
Yeah, fantastic. And wow, there is just so many here. We've got a couple of Leap ones, so I'll address those as well. So when it comes to Leap, Copilot and other AI developments, we have a commitment to innovation here at Leap. And of course, AI represents something that is all part of the technology mix. And what's important for what we do with the legal practice productivity solution is ensuring that we're delivering solutions for the problems that lawyers face in practice to help you with your productivity. And that, of course, includes that technology mix. Microsoft is our #1 integrator with Leap. We actually make the Microsoft 365 suite as a requirement in our system requirements, because that's what your bread and butter is as a lawyer, is creating documents, sending emails, and using the Microsoft 365 environment. So there's loads of developments here in this emerging tech, so it's absolutely a space to watch. We'll include our timelines of innovation as well, so you can see just what we mean by our commitment to innovation and all of the amazing things we've brought out really recently as well. So hopefully that addresses that it is a space to watch there, and something that you can keep an eye out for announcements in the future.
Chantal, can I just add, I don't want to speak for Leap here, but one of the things I do love about Microsoft is we realize it's not just all about Microsoft. So while we embed all this stuff deeply within our products and services, and we do, we also recognize that people are multi-cloud, they've got, you know, third-party products in their systems. So there are things that Microsoft are doing to actually integrate out into that ecosystem as well.
Wonderful, excellent. We have a pretty a really good question that goes to adoption. And that is a, you know, as lawyers and legal staff are skilled workers, this questioner has found that many have resisted using AI to generate content, and they believe that they can do a better job. Even if they can, the speed of which AI can do similar, you know, beginning that process outweighs this. And the questioner has seen similar attitude towards automated precedents I'm presuming that the context here is within Leap as well. So how can we shift those mindsets to that prevent the users from implementing such useful tools?
Yeah, so one of the 5 pillars that I talked about in terms of AI success really was that education and training. And so I actually implore every organization to go out there and develop for themselves, or pick one up, like an AI 101 for your staff. You've got to start getting people on this AI journey, because it's not one of those flash in the pan kind of things that has gone away. It's inevitability. Basically, this particular technology is kind of tipping point technology. And then it's kind of each one teach one as well. So, you know, whenever I discover someone who hasn't discovered a generative AI, then I get them to download the apps on their phone, and I start showing them. If you're integrating, for example, if you were implementing Copilot within your organization, things that I've seen organizations do is set up kind of center of excellence areas. So people who come together in a chat in a team, and they're kind of sharing ideas. And then by osmosis, you find that the rest kind of gravitate to it as they start to hear about what's going on. But I get it, because there can be a bit of a badge of honor of having done it yourself. But I guess one of the things too, there are times when you want to know something is AI generated, like if it's particular IP, if it's artwork, if it's something that is, you know, really unique like that. Other times, I actually don't think it matters. For example, everything I produce with generative AI, I actually customize myself anyway. So it's how do you label that? Actually, I have started labeling some of that. Like when I produce meeting minutes using my Copilot, it says generated by Copilot, and then I say tweaked by Hills. But still check for accuracy. So there's times when it matters, and then there's times that I just don't think it matters either. So it's definitely a mindset shift. But we've got to think about the pace of change here and how really fast this is happening. It's not about where are we going to be in 12 months' time. It's where are we going to be in 3 months. You know, like even the events of the weekend have kind of proven that things can change really fast in the AI landscape. So yeah, just we've got to try and keep up with this. And then my other takeaway is that it takes a village to really keep up with technology these days. No one person can know it all. So form a bit of a village around you of people who are happy to share information and take you on the journey. And just make sure you move beyond the headlines and do your 20 to 50 hours of research, as good lawyers probably would as well.
I love all of that, because it's absolutely best practice, and I think the number one is you're joining this webinar. That is a really important step, which has just been absolutely fantastic. We do have quite a few similar questions about the availability of the Microsoft Copilot offering here in New Zealand, and I'm going to ask on behalf of the Australians joining as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is available now. It became generally available on the 1st of November. However, we are doing a global rollout of this. So there are some kind of particular prerequisites that companies have to meet first. And so, unfortunately at the moment, the minimum seats that you can buy is like 300. So that will change. It will get smaller, and we'll also come down into the consumer range, no doubt, as well. But yeah, so that's where it sits at the moment. It is available now, but you've got to buy a few of it at this stage.
Great. Thank you. And
however, I should say Copilot and Copilot with that commercial protection, so used to be called Bing Chat and Bing Chat Enterprise, that is available now for everyone. If you've got a sort of Microsoft subscription, then you can get Copilot with that commercial data protection to make sure if your employees do cut and paste information in, that it's all protected. That's a really good first start. Also, if you're not in the bracket of that 300 seats for Copilot, you can actually look at Microsoft Teams Premium, which gives some of those meeting notes and ability to summarize meetings, which can be really helpful as well.
Yes, I've got some personal experience with that one in the academic space, and can agree it is very useful in the hot minute that you need it. So, that's absolutely fantastic for those sorts of things. What we might do is wrap up. We do have quite a few questions that we might have to take on notice at this point, because we have gone over our quick 30-minute burst. So there are a couple as well questions relating to Leap and integrations and things as well. So to directly address, we do have our help desks both available here in New Zealand and in Australia to assist you with technical assistance and questions related to your integrations with Microsoft 365. It's not working how you're expecting it to. And we've also got our online help center as well that provides lots of tips and access to other resources like our Leap University, which covers a whole bunch of the ways in which Leap integrates with the Microsoft 365 environment, including Teams. So hopefully that is that very general blanket address of a few of the individual questions that we've received. And for those specific questions, we'll take those on notice and reach out to you. So do appreciate that. Were there any last words, Hills, that people can take away from keeping up in this era of AI?
So my absolute plea to people is that you do lean in on this and don't just kind of let it pass you by. Maybe it's not your thing. Maybe technology is not your thing. Technology is everyone's thing now, which is really, really cool. There's no longer just organizations. We're pretty much all technology organizations. So find a friend who is using generative AI and show them how to download it on your phone and just kind of experience it. Because the more you experience, the more you play, the more you experiment, the more you get it, and it really makes sense. So thank you so much, Chantal.
That's all right. I was just going to add, make sure you follow Hills. There's all these different places you can keep up to date. Hills produces some fantastic content in this space as well, and to keep you interested and to start forming your tribe around this. Thank you all for joining us and staying on throughout our lunch break here, and those in Australia as well. And we hope to see you next time.